What? Not yet, all right, let's, do you want them to have the books or?
Oh, we should be able to put the books. Everyone have whatever you take notes on, get that out. So obviously we spent the last couple of days talking about Spanish colonization, a lot in South America, some in North America. So we're going to pay attention to today. These are the things you really need to put down in your notes. Differences between French, Dutch, and English plans and attitudes on newly acquired land. So once they set up their colonies and had them set up, what did they want to do with them? Which nation was most successful, which was least successful, and why? All these countries spent different amounts of times in these colonial periods. So which ones had the most success, made the most money, had the most people? And then native treatment by these different nations. All three of these countries treated nations very differently. So pay attention to that. So like I said, we talked about Spain. They had a lot of colonialist success, and a lot of other European nations wanted to do the same. England, France, and the Netherlands were the three. In 1494, did you guys talk about the Treaty of Tordesillas?
They should know all about the Treaty of Tordesillas.
Okay, so you guys know all about that. It was between Spain and Portugal. The reason most of the rest of Europe is going to ignore this is because it's between Spain and Portugal. All these other countries wanted a hand in, and as we can see, every bit of land that isn't already Europe or Asia is for Spain or Portugal, and other countries wanted some. So first you're going to come to French. The French are going to send a lot of explorers throughout the Northwest, looking for the Northwest trade route. Obviously, no one's ever going to find that. We know what the Northwest trade route is. Anybody tell me? The Northwest trade route, Northwest trade passage. It's not a real thing, but it's what they were looking for. North and South America is one big piece of land. So if you want to get around it, you got to go all the way below the southern tip of South America, and that takes a long time by boat. So people were looking for any water route that's going to go across that entire plot of land to save money and time. So the first guy that's going to come along in 1524 is Giovanni de Verrazzano. He was actually Italian, but working for the French, and he's going to be the first guy to discover the New York Harbor, and they're going to work inland. In 1534, 10 years later, a guy named Jacques Cartier, he's going to reach the Gulf that's off the eastern coast of Canada. So French Canada, as it's known today, the part of Canada where they all speak French. He's going to name it St. Lawrence, and he's going to follow that river the whole way inward until he finds an island that he's going to call Montreal or Montreal. It's French for Mount Royal. 1608, a guy is going to come along named Samuel de Champlain. He's going to sail up the St. Lawrence with 32 colonists, and they're going to found Quebec, which is another major city up in Canada, and that's going to be the base of New France. 1673, a French Jesuit priest named Jacques Marquette, along with a trader named Louis Joliet. They're going to explore the entirety of the Great Lakes and the upper Mississippi River. And then 10 years later, Sieur de La Salle is going to explore the rest of the Mississippi River and lay claim to that entire area for France. He's going to name the bottom of it Louisiana after King Louis XIV. And that area is going to be from the bottom of Louisiana all the way up through eastern Canada is going to be the base of France, New France. So France is going to be a trading empire. They're going to participate in the fur trade a lot. In 1760, the population only made it to 65,000 people in the entire colonies, which obviously isn't a lot of people. I believe there's 400,000 people in the city of Pittsburgh alone. So this is a lot of area with a very scarce population. The people who are going to come over is a lot of Catholic priests. They're just really going to travel the lands looking for natives, and they're going to try to convert them to Catholicism. Sometimes successful, sometimes not. And they're rest is really just going to be young single men who don't have jobs and need to make money, so they're going to participate in the fur trade with natives. The French aren't really worried about these colonies being a place that people live. They really just want to make as much money in these colonies as they can through the fur trade.
So if we stop for a second, because there's a lot of information there about France. Big picture. Okay, what's happening? What has France done? Hannah? They've claimed a bunch of land. Okay, have they fortified their claim, would you say? Not in many places, no. They were more interested in what? Big picture, they were trying to what? They're just trying to make money. Okay, so again, yesterday as we compared and contrasted the different approaches to colonization, that's going to matter big picture. Okay, because we is not something that we say commonly. We probably think about that as going to the bathroom instead of saying yes, yes, right? No? Yeah. Okay. All right.
So after the French, the English are going to want a peace. So they're going to, a company of London in 1606 is going to receive a charter from King James to try to found a colony in North America. They came here because they thought they were going to find just literally a gold mine. They thought they were going to find a bunch of gold. So late in the year, they're going to send 3 ships with 100 settlers, and they're going to land in the Chesapeake Bay at the colony of Jamestown. They're going to name it Jamestown after the king, and they're going to lay claim to that land. Jamestown settlement didn't go very well. I've actually been to the Jamestown settlement. Once you get there, you'll realize that it's very humid. It's right on the water, and there's a lot of mosquitoes. What comes? Anybody know what comes from mosquitoes? What's the issue with having a lot of mosquitoes?
Malaria.
Exactly, malaria. Diseases like malaria are going to destroy the population of Jamestown. Also, along with that, since they're just worried about finding gold, they're not really planting a lot of crops. So they're just starving, getting disease, battling with natives and dying. Over the following years, 7 out of every 10 people in Jamestown die. So this class that has 20 people in it, 14 a year are gonna die, 6 a year are gonna make it. Not very good odds, you know. So eventually they're gonna start to gain a foothold, and it's gonna become the first permanent settlement in North America. This is gonna be because of tobacco. They discovered that tobacco grows really well in this area, and that people really like it, like addiction amount like it. So they can just keep pumping out as much as they want, and people are gonna keep buying it.
So if we stop before we go to New England then.
Mm-hmm.
And this came from the highest authority, King James. When tobacco comes to England, they viewed tobacco as the cure-all. Like tobacco would fix anything that was wrong with you. King James died of nasal cancer because he believed in tobacco so much that he snorted tobacco daily. Okay? And then who in here would, if you got a letter from Jamestown, or then even later on in colonial America, what we call that Chesapeake region, the average life expectancy was 40 years old. Girls, not very exciting for you. There were 5 guys for every girl in the Chesapeake region, and they weren't necessarily the guys that you wanted courting you. Okay?
They weren't rich. They were there for a reason. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, when they got to Virginia and then later Maryland, this was really tough sledding, tough land. People didn't find the things they needed to survive. Tobacco, which again, setting the stage for the story, tobacco becomes king. Tobacco becomes the cash crop. They loved tobacco in Europe. They didn't know that tobacco was bad. They thought it was good. Okay? So I stopped to do that because when you think about New England, and again, comparing, contrasting, New England circumstances are gonna be way different,
Yeah.
okay? And
Um,
if you went to New England, you'd live to the ripe old age of 60 on average. That's a big difference.
So the Jamestown colony was more of an economic settlement. They were just trying to make money from it. This point, we know about the Pilgrims, right? Everybody's learned about the Pilgrims, first Thanksgiving, you know, all that stuff. So the Pilgrims, they're gonna face a bunch of religious disputes in England. They're gonna want to get out. In 1620, they're gonna do so. They're gonna come to Plymouth, Massachusetts, and set up a colony there. And we know the whole story. 10 years later, Puritans are going to do the same. They were seeking freedom from England's Anglican Church. They just kept setting rules on them about what they were and weren't allowed to do, so they wanted religious freedom. So they're going to go to the nearby Massachusetts Bay, and they're going to establish an even larger colony than the Pilgrims had. Puritans really wanted to set up like the first model Christian community, so they were kind of hoping that they could come in first, set up a community for what they think that a Christian community should be like, and then afterwards, colonies that are going to set up after are going to do the same. At least they hope so. They're going to experience some early difficulties, just like the Jamestown settlement, but eventually it is going to take hold. The difference between these settlements and the more economic ones like Jamestown and the French is that the economic ones were sending mostly just single men, just people looking for any sort of money that they can make. But these religious societies are going to come with entire families. It's just going to be a totally different situation, different system set up, more worried about populating the area than making money. So after the English are done, well, not after, but while the English are getting done, the Dutch are going to try their hand as well. In 1609, an Englishman named Henry Hudson is going to serve the Netherlands, and he's going to sail west to try to find that Northwest Sea route as well. He doesn't find the route, but he does find 3 waterways that they name after him: the Hudson River, the Hudson Bay, and the Hudson Strait. The Hudson Bay is all the way up in Canada. The Hudson Strait is over by Greenland and Iceland. Anybody know where the Hudson River's at? It's a pretty it's like one of the most famous rivers in the United States. That's right, New York City. It's wherever that plane. You know, ever seen the movie Sully? That he lands the plane in the river. It's in the Hudson River. The Dutch are going to claim the region all along these waterways, and they're going to also establish a fur trade with the Iroquois like the French did. They're going to set up a bunch of trading posts along the Hudson River at Fort Orange, which is in Albany, and on the Manhattan Island itself, which is that little strip right there. Merchants are also going to form the Dutch West India Company. You guys have probably heard of the different West India companies, pretty popular along like trade. In 1621, the Dutch government is going to grant the company that came here permission to colonize the area and expand the fur trade. So they're going to do that, and they're going to officially be known as New Netherland. They're going to profit from the fur trade really well, but people don't really want to move here at the beginning. They see no reason to. Most people in the Netherlands, they're doing well. There's no reason for them to get on a boat for multiple months and go across the country to a country that isn't set up at all and hope that they survive. So they're going to try to encourage settlers from all across Europe to come. There's going to be settlers from Germany, France, from Norway, that area, Scandinavia, and other Europeans are going to come and settle the area to try to boom the population. There also is going to be a lot of colonization in the Caribbean area. The French are going to seize Haiti and Guadeloupe and Martinique. The English are going to settle Barbados and Jamaica. And then in 1634, Dutch is going to capture the Netherland Antilles and Aruba from Spain. These areas end up just turning into giant plantations. They're going to grow sugar and cotton down here with African slave labor. They're going to grow as much as they can and ship out as much as they can. Until later on, there's going to be some of the largest slave revolts in written history are going to occur down here. So at this point, as all these colonies are set up, it's going to create a struggle for North America. All three of these countries are going to get into little skirmishes with each other, and they're going to want to all claim all of North America for themselves. So in 1664, the English King Charles III, he's going to grant permission to colonialists in the area to drive out the Dutch. They just want the Dutch out, just get them out now and we'll deal with the French after. So upon arrival in New Netherland with the military and such, the Dutch are just going to completely surrender without a fight. They just are going to give up all the land. And the Duke of York, who is the brother, I believe, of King Charles III, is going to claim victory and rename that whole area New York. With the Dutch gone, the English were able to colonize the entirety of the Atlantic coast, at least down to Georgia, I believe, at the time. By 1750, there's 1.2 million English settlers that live from Maine to Georgia, which is a lot more than the 65,000 before that lived in New France. So they're starting to really populate the area. After they're done with the Dutch, England is going to battle with the French. The English are just going to want more land, and they're just going to keep on pushing further west into the French's area, and eventually they're going to collide with the French. They're going to interfere with each other. There's going to be some small skirmishes, but eventually a major conflict is going to arrive. In 1754, there's a major dispute over the Ohio Valley. It's going to lead to war between the British and the French in North America. It's going to be known as the French and Indian War. It's one of the most famous early wars from pre-revolutionary America, and it's going to be part of a larger conflict that's going to be going on in Europe called the 7 Years' War. That overall is just a battle for supremacy in Europe, the West Indies, and India, which is where a lot of trade is happening, spices and stuff like that. In 1763, not even 10 years later, the British are going to defeat the French, and the French are going to surrender all of their North American holdings, and the British are going to seize the eastern half of North America. Obviously, if people show up to your house and take it, you're not going to like it. So the English, French, and Dutch are going to show up on the land of Native Americans and kill them and take their land if they don't just give it to them. It's going to cause a lot of issues. The French and Dutch are going to be pretty good with the natives. They're going to treat them pretty well. They work together a lot in the fur trade. Natives did a lot of the trapping. They got the furs and traded them to the French for guns, hatchets, and beads, and then they would sell them wherever they needed to sell them. But they didn't live in complete harmony, obviously. Dutch settlers had quite a few skirmishes with a lot of native groups, but for the most part it was pretty peaceful. The English, on the other hand, they were less than cooperative. They came in from the jump. They were pretty peaceful, but once the religions weren't on the same side and people had anything to say about what land they can and can't take, they're gonna fight. The English obviously were more worried about populating their colonies, so they're gonna need more land. They're gonna keep pushing for more land and pushing natives off of the land so that they can grow their population and plant more tobacco, which is the major cash crop of the time. There's also going to create a lot of religious differences. English considered natives as heathens, so since they weren't of Christian religions, they just thought that they were wrong and stupid. Puritans also the same. They thought of natives as agents of the devil. They thought that they were working for Satan himself, and overall they were just a threat to European society. Natives themselves are going to develop harsh views of Europeans because showing up and taking their stuff. Not cool. So there's going to be some fights between settlers and Native Americans. Going to be a lot of hostility. As early as 1622, there was fights between English and the natives. The Powhatan tribe attacked a lot of the colonial villages that were around Jamestown and killed about 350 settlers. And colonists don't like when other colonists get killed, so they're going to fight back. Until 1675, there's going to be the beginning of King Philip's War. That right there is a guy named Metacom. He was a native ruler, also known as King Philip. He led an attack on colonial villages throughout Massachusetts, and both sides it's just, it caused a lot of bloodshed. Eventually, after about a year, the colonists are going to become victorious, and it really is only just in this one war. There's going to be a lot more skirmishes throughout its history. This is going to be the major issue for Native Americans. Disease is going to kill way more Native Americans than any European weapon is going to. Europeans brought most of the diseases with them, like smallpox, and it's just going to destroy the native population. In 1616, there's a smallpox epidemic, and the population of many tribes is going to drop drastically. But one specific example, the Massachusetts tribe, they dropped from 24,000 people to 750. That's a lot of people, like that. That's not good. Population dropping to 750 is kind of hard to come back from. Nearly whole tribes are going to fall to these European diseases, smallpox, measles, and it's going to create a severe shortage of labor, which is going to cause Europeans to turn to Africa for slave labor. All right, so now what you guys are going to do, if you guys have your notes, your notebooks out, take a separate blank sheet of paper, and answer these 3 questions for me. 1, 2 sentences, nothing too crazy. So what was one difference between French and English attitudes about the required land in North America? Were they economic, or were they more worried about population? What was the main result of the French and Indian War? And then what were some of the results for Native Americans of European colonization in North America? Shouldn't take too long. When you guys are done, just make a pile. You just put them up. You just bring them up to me when you're done. These are more for me, so I make sure they got what I was putting down. Okay, that's all.